Imagine a small hollow object, cast in bronze or carved from dark stone, resting in the palm of your hand. Its surface is divided into 12 perfect pentagonal faces, each pierced by a circular hole of a different size. Tiny knobs protrude from every corner, as if designed to be held, turned, or mounted in some unknowable device. This is the Roman dodecahedron, an artifact that has baffled archaeologists for nearly 3 centuries. Dozens of these strange geometries have been unearthed from the buried strata of a fallen empire. They emerge from the soil of Britain, the riverbeds of Germany, the vineyards of France, and the ancient frontiers of Gaul. Each discovery tightens the silence around a mystery that refuses to resolve itself into history's tidy narrative. Where we crave a complete story, the dodecahedron offers only a shadow cast by a forgotten mind. We tell ourselves that time reveals all things, but as you stand before this enigmatic form, time seems to mock the premise. The first recorded dodecahedron was pulled from the earth in 1739 in a field near the Dutch town of Elst. At first glance, it might have been dismissed as a mummery prop or a child's perplexing toy cast aside by Roman hands. But the pattern of discovery quickly crushed any notion of a single accidental creation. Since that day, over 100 of these artifacts have surfaced across the northwestern provinces of the Roman Empire. Their geographical spread is a whisper of a shared, deeply embedded purpose that once united distant garrisons and settlements. They range in size from a small walnut to a clenched fist, always hollow, always with those 12 faces and those maddeningly deliberate holes. The craftsmanship is precise, not random. Each hole is carefully proportioned, its rim often showing signs of wear or repeated contact. Ancient fingers or some lost mechanical shaft left their trace on the bronze, a ghost of motion frozen in patina. Some are crude, hammered from iron, while others are masterworks of lost wax casting in gleaming bronze. One specimen, found simply lying on the floor of a villa in northern Italy, was encrusted with the candle wax of centuries. The wax dripped over its knobs and holes, hinting that it had once been held near a source of light and heat. Yet the archaeological record from the Roman world is stubbornly, impossibly mute about these objects. Not a single surviving scroll, merchant's ledger, military inventory, or mosaic depicts or names them. The Romans left behind recipes for cement, treatises on architecture, and letters about weather, yet they never described the dodecahedron. We must therefore read the artifact as the only page of a book whose language we have forgotten. The objects seem to date between the 1st and 4th centuries of our era, spanning the height of imperial power. They cluster not in Italy's heartland, but in the cold, contested edge of the empire: Gaul, Germania, Britannia. This frontier distribution suggests they belonged to the rhythm of military camps, frontier traders, or the cultural mixing of Celtic and Roman worlds. When the physical evidence is this sparse and strange, even the soil becomes a questionable witness to truth. The holes on a single dodecahedron are never the same diameter. They follow a deliberate, stepped variation from face to face. As you rotate the object in your mind's eye, the changing circles seem to measure something invisible. Some researchers theorize it was a rangefinder used by surveyors to calculate distance across rivers and hills. According to this hypothesis, the larger holes framed the site to a distant post, aligning with the smaller holes to gauge range. But field tests have shown that equally spaced holes on a simple plaque would serve the same purpose more accurately. The dodecahedron's complex geometry seems to resist the very function we attempt to assign it. Another theory, grounded in the wax residue, suggests it was a candle holder of beautiful intricacy. A central wick would be threaded through, and the object placed so that light spilled from the variable holes in a deliberate pattern. Yet the knobs would make it wobble, and the hollow sphere would trap melting wax in ways that defy practical illumination. Where archaeology faltered, local legend and the whisper of ancient Celtic belief began to fill the silence. Some scholars propose it was a ritual object, aligned to the Druidic reverence for sacred geometry and the cosmic order. The 12 faces may have mirrored the months, the zodiac, or the 12 great gods of the Roman pantheon. In this reading, the dodecahedron becomes a portable altar, held during auguries or whispered prayers on a winter campaign. A darker hypothesis suggests it was an instrument for divination, thrown or spun to read the fall of shadows through its holes. Your hand could cast a shadow on the ground, the varying circles forming a moving pattern that a seer might interpret. But the wear patterns are often localized, not the all-over scuffing you would expect from repeated tossing. The mystery deepens into a labyrinth where every logical corridor turns back on itself, leading only to the artifact's silent center. Consider the theory that gripped the popular imagination in the 19th century, that these were weapons, brutal knuckle dusters of war. The idea is visceral. The bronze knobs would protrude between a clenched fist, turning a human hand into a mace. Yet the objects are hollow, thin-walled, and would likely crumple against bone or armor rather than damage it. Moreover, the wear on the knobs shows no sign of violent impact, only the gentle polish of age and repeated handling. The mind recoils from the artifact's emptiness, so it fills the void with practical explanations from the modern world. Perhaps it was a yarn spindle, the holes used to guide fibers into a twisted thread. But why the 12 faces? Why the knobs? Why cast such a thing in expensive bronze when wood or bone served every spinner? Perhaps it was a calibration tool for water pipes, the varying holes measuring the flow into lead conduits of standard Roman sizes. A few have been found in regions with no advanced aqueducts, weakening the link to plumbing systems. Some investigators placed a dodecahedron over the hub of a chariot wheel and watched it spin, proposing it was a decorative or functional hubcap. But the fixed knobs around the holes would have interfered with any axle, and the wear does not match rotational friction. Every theory, no matter how elegantly reasoned, shatters against the irregular edges of archaeological fact. We find ourselves at the mercy of a past that deliberately encoded its knowledge in forms we cannot decipher. The Romans were engineers of astonishing sophistication. They built domes that still stand and devised machines to move water uphill. It is precisely that sophistication that makes the dodecahedron's unknown role feel like a deliberate intellectual affront. The human mind craves cause and effect, yet here the effect is present and the cause has dissolved into ancient humus. The obsessive search for the answer has spanned generations, claiming the quiet hours of metalworkers, mathematicians, and historians. One German researcher spent decades cataloging every known specimen, measuring each hole and knob to the millimeter, searching for a mathematical code. He noted that the holes often correspond to a rough Fibonacci-like progression, a pattern found in natural growths and ancient art. But the correlation is imperfect, a tantalizing near match that drives reason to the brink of mysticism. Imagine standing in a dim museum corridor at twilight, a single dodecahedron suspended in a glass case before you. The gallery is silent, and the bronze seems to absorb the failing light rather than reflect it, a hole into a vanished mentality. This object has haunted its discoverers, following them into dreams, where they finally hear the voice of a Roman artisan explaining its use. Yet when they wake, they recall only the feeling of a revelation slipping away like sand through their fingers. The mystery exerts its heaviest toll on those who handle the originals directly, feeling the cool metal and the smooth rim of an aperture. Some conservators report a strange, dislocating sensation, as if the object is waiting for a missing counterpart that no longer exists. We are not merely studying an ancient gadget. We are confronting the profound vulnerability of human knowledge. An entire society, millions of minds across centuries, knew exactly what this thing was, and not one of them thought to tell us. That silence is the true abyss beneath the dodecahedron, a chasm between our world and a parallel past that has sealed its lips. You can almost sense the ghost of a Roman legionary tapping one against a wooden post, performing a routine check that held the empire together. Or perhaps a Gallic healer held it over a patient, murmuring incantations to a local river god as the holes framed the afflicted flesh. Theories multiply like echoes in a crypt, each one carrying a fragment of plausible truth, but never the full sonic clarity. The stark beauty of the object is that it remains unsolved, a perfect puzzle that refuses to be broken down into the mundane. Even the most confident archaeologist will pause, look at the dodecahedron, and admit that it may outlast every attempt at resolution. It has become a mirror. The rational mind sees a scientific instrument, the mystic sees a cosmic model, the warrior sees a weapon. We project our own cultural logic onto its quiet geometry, and it accepts all interpretations without affirming any. This is the eternal trap of the dodecahedron, exploits our deepest need for narrative closure and gives nothing back but its own existence. There is a comfort in believing history is a solved puzzle until you stand at the edge of this silence and realize how much has been lost. The dodecahedron is not a broken piece of the grand fresco of the Roman world. It is a deliberate empty space intentionally left there. Perhaps the Romans guarded the secret so closely because it embodied a proprietary technology for surveying, navigation, or encryption. Or perhaps it was considered so sacred that its name could not be spoken outside the inner sanctum of a mystery cult. The fragments of evidence, the wax, the worn holes, the frontier distribution are like scattered stars in a constellation we cannot yet trace. As time passes, new specimens may emerge from a drained bog or a collapsed cave, bringing fresh clues without guaranteed revelation. We are left with the rarest and most unsettling kind of artifact, one that taught the ancients a profound truth we have not yet relearned. The dodecahedron embodies the paradox of archaeology, where an object can survive 2,000 years of Earth and still bury its meaning beneath our feet. Contemplate the hands that last touched it, a Roman or a Briton or a Gaul who set it down one afternoon and then forgot it forever. That moment of abandonment was the last heartbeat of its purpose before it entered the long, dreamless sleep of the soil. Now it rests in a museum drawer or a glass case, an orphaned key to a door that no longer exists in the structure of our world. We tell ourselves that in time, some clever scholar will decode its function and the puzzle will be solved. But some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to remind us that the past is a foreign country, vast and unfathomable. The Roman dodecahedron will continue to gleam softly under gallery lights, holding its secret as tightly as the earth once held the object itself. And as you turn away, you might feel the subtle weight of its absence in your understanding, a shape of nothing that lingers, like a final, unanswerable question.